Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and today we're chatting with two Vasilises, the team behind Meeple Pug. Meeple Pug is the board game publishing company that has created Age of Inventors, which is currently on Kickstarter. Vasilis and Vasilis, or maybe Vasilis squared, welcome to the binge. How you guys doing?
Thank you for having us.
It's great to have you. We were just saying before you went on air, there's actually a couple other members of your team that are also named Vasilis. How do you guys keep track? I'm sure when people are calling out your name, it's like, okay, who are we referring to? Is there nicknames you guys go by, or
Nicknames.
At the beginning, we just pointed fingers, but then we saw that that's not the best option, so we all have nicknames.
Oh, nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick it with Vasilis in the white shirt for people who are watching, and we're going to go with Vanton for the blue shirt, if that's cool in today's chat, just so people know who each other are when we're speaking. So first and foremost, Meeple Pug. I love this game name. The logo is adorable. How did you guys come up with this name? What's the story behind that?
Panayotis, or Aeolus, the third guy of our designer group, actually has a pug, and he, of course, suggested it, and we all loved it as an idea, and we stuck to that.
Oh, it is awesome. It's fun, right? Like anytime you see, like, there's so many different companies out there, and I get the pleasure of seeing, different names and different logos. And every time you come across one that just kind of stops you in your tracks like this, it's a good sign, right? Because it's memorable and it's easier for people to kind of identify with you guys, which I think is a good thing. How did you guys meet? So I think first I'll just say you guys are actually in Greece, right? So we're talking on different sides of the planet right now. How did you guys meet? Like, where did you guys first connect?
So go ahead, man.
Okay, I had a group. I did some events where I was playing D&D. I was like a semi-professional DM, and that's how I met Aeolus, the third guy of the group. And after we played D&D for a couple of months, he was like, "You know what? I make board games. You want to come and make board games with me?" I said, "Sure, why not?" I was very deep in the hobby. I had played like hundreds of board games, and I loved it. We hit it off, and we created a couple of board games with him. And then we wanted playtesters for one of our other projects, USS Freedom. And I remember I asked people on Facebook on a certain group, which I don't remember what it was now. And then Vasilis came. And he came, and he was extremely good on what he was pointing out. And since then, he stuck with us, and he's now a designer with us.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, one of you is a geophysicist, I believe, right? The other one's a software engineer. So you're a geophysicist. Wow.
Yeah.
And so how are you still doing that? Or like, that's obviously your training and your schooling, but have you moved full time now into board gaming, or kind of what's the setup there?
It's been, I think, 3 years now that I am working as a dedicated game designer.
Wow.
It's my full-time job. It's a struggle, but if you have love for the industry, if you have love for the board games, everything is easier, everything is nice. I do miss my science, but board games are better. Board games are what my heart wants.
And what's a geophysicist do? Like, what was kind of your role before when you were doing that?
Before that, I worked very little I just finished my studies, and then I worked in marketing, which has nothing to do with geophysics, and then I worked here. But a geophysicist, what he does is he makes sure that a location for a bridge or a building or any other construction is good for the construction. He makes sure that he lays out the groundwork is what it has to be for to avoid any bad incidents. That's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, that's pretty important. And then Vasilis, you're a software engineer. Now,
I am.
And what was that? What were you doing as a software engineer?
So I just started. I always liked to play video games when I was young. I remember playing Doom 2 on a Windows 95 machine.
Great game, yeah.
And I was stuck in the computer. I learned how to do some advanced things. My father taught me how to draw graphics and stuff like that. And then when it came time to go to university, I said, I'm going to go to study computers, computer science. I found a job immediately. It was 2013. I went to do an Erasmus in the UK. I then later went to work in Glasgow for 3 years. And I came back to Greece, still working as a software engineer. It's literally impossible not to find a job if you're a software engineer. So yeah, I also like it. It used to be my creative outlet, but now board games have kind of caught my eye, and I prefer to be creative doing a game, not just.
Well, I've talked to a lot of software engineers in this industry, and it's actually a pretty common, leap, I guess, from software engineering or any kind of digital game design into board game design. And often when I talk to these people, the way to describe it is once you're doing something all the time, like software engineering, what originally brought you into it was kind of the interest and the fun, but you need a reprieve from that when it's your day job. Right. And many people have seen kind of board games as more of an analog, tactile thing to do where they're away from a computer, where they can just kind of be creative, but coming at it from a very different angle.
Exactly what you said. It's a perfect excuse to move away from a screen, to be with other people at the same room. And it activates some of the thinking I use when I write software, so I like it. And also, I was trying to become a game designer in the video game industry. I made a clone for Asteroids and a simple Tetris clone. The amount of work required to make a complete game, a video game, is immense. And video games are just too hard to get into. So designing a board game gets you to the sweet spot of designing a game without having to do all the extra legwork that video games require. So it was nice.
That's cool. Vanton, when you do your game design, I think I've read somewhere that you've done, I think you've had three games that you've designed, I guess, in with other companies and so forth as well. Is that?
Yes. 3 that have been published, yeah.
Okay.
Have been on Kickstarter.
When did you first, I always find this interesting when I talk to game designers, when did you first create a game? And did it ever see the light of day, or is it in a closet somewhere?
The first, the first designs I have are, of course, they've never seen the light of day. They're still in the closet. Maybe I will use, maybe I will use parts of them for other games. But the first thing I actually worked on and it got published was Eolis, which was a Kickstarter from Dreamcraft a couple of years ago. And that was the first game that I actually had to do actual work. And then came USS Freedom, which I had to do from the beginning. When I started with the release, it was already been made. It was already been in a I don't know, not final, but it had a good chunk of ideas. And then I had to do USS Freedom, and then I started from scratch, from zero, doing Age of Inventors with Vasilis and Eolus.
That's cool. And my understanding is in Greece, I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of developers coming out of Greece as of late, like a lot, and which I think is great and it's exciting. And some of them I've talked to have said that, the actual community itself, though, in Greece is not as massive as a game community as you would have in other countries. And most of the creations you guys do is for export, right? Like there's not as much domestic. Is that fair, or are you seeing the opposite? Are you seeing kind of the community grow in Greece?
There are people who play video games in Greece, board games in Greece, but definitely it does not compare to how many people are interested in other countries. So maybe it's analogous. So based on our population, we're a small country. But if you take it as raw numbers, definitely Greece does not have a big market for board games. Yeah.
Now I notice Age of Inventors is on Tabletop Simulator, which is great. I think it's awesome, so people can try it. How do you guys do most of your playtesting? Is it done in person, or I know with COVID that's kind of changed everything up as well in terms of people playtesting in a digital format. But how do you bring everybody together in your team to kind of work on your game?
We are lucky on that. Actually, we're unlucky because we should use tabletop simulator more. We definitely should. It's easier, it's faster, it will save so much time. But we did most of our playtesting in person. We brought people we know and we trust, and then people we don't know but other people trusted. And we actually, while we designed, we playtested a lot, like a lot,
Yeah.
so much. We also had, I think some people find it interesting. We had a few playtesters that were like 10, 12 years old,
Okay.
because it was one of the goals of the game was to be able to play it with your children if you have, or your nephews or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a very fun experience. That was, it was a small drop of happiness in the anxiousness of, oh, I need to create this game, I need to make it good. And it was a small drop of happiness of seeing children play.
Yeah, for sure. Where did the idea come from? Like, how did you guys come up with this? And was it theme first and then mechanics, or was it mechanics and then theme wrapped into it? Like, where did this kind of all start?
Definitely theme first. Definitely
theme first, yes. The first goal was to make a family-friendly game, again, that you can easily play with your spouse and children and wherever. And I remember it was Eolo's idea. He said, let's make something that will be like educational, so it's very welcome for kids to play. And what about science? Everybody would love to play as Einstein or Tesla or whoever.
Yeah.
And we said, oh yeah, that sounds perfect, that sounds great. So the theme was the very first thing. And as Vasilis likes to say, the artwork for the scientists, for the inventors, were commissioned before any kind of mechanics were made. Yeah, before any design. I always commissioned the artwork for the inventions, for the inventors. And then as we go, we created the different mechanics that now is the game.
Oh, that's amazing. And I imagine the amount of, you would have had to do a lot of research for this, right? Even like, forget the game itself, but like the inventors and who the key inventors were in history and kind of what they invented. Like, how did you guys go? Yeah. How'd you go through that process?
For me, it was my favorite part of the game, creating abilities for the inventors that actually had something to do with their life's work or their life or whatever. And studying about them was a very fun process. I thought it wouldn't, but it was a very fun process. We learned a lot. I don't know if we will remember everything we did by the end of the campaign, but it was very pleasant to learn about all those stuff and putting, I don't know, the ability to translocate a worker for the Wright brothers because they created the airplane.
Yeah.
And then putting an extra victory point to whoever retires Marie Curie because she actually died from her research. So we honored her by giving one victory point to whoever retires her. All this part of the design was extremely fun for me, and I was very happy to learn all those stuff that I didn't know before.
Yeah. Yeah, super cool.
Being said,
go ahead.
That being said, it's not like we did like very deep dive into the minutiae and the details of everything. So, I mean, we did look up some things up, but it's not like we should be considered a source. Like we're just hoping, finding things out, incorporating them into the game. So
it's thematic, but it's not like it's a history book that we're having to play here, right?
Exactly.
So your campaign right now is hit about, I'm going to put this in Canadian dollars because it's the only way I can see it. And of course, the numbers are always bigger. $55,000 on a goal of about 20,000, 786 backers, and you still got 11 days to go. Man, you guys got to be really happy with that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible.
Really nice.
Can you walk us?
Engagement is nice.
Oh, a huge engagement. Can you walk us through kind of the essence of how to play this game, kind of the main notes?
Yeah, so the initial idea was to create an engine building game. So we took some basic elements that we thought should be in the game, like inventors' inventions, and then knowledge in scientific fields like physics, chemistry, engineering, and finally funds and ideas. and we try to create a way for one to give you the other. So you start out with a lab, and you can spend your funds to hire inventors, which when you activate on the field, they give you ideas. And with your ideas, you can conceive inventions that in order to put in the field, you have to spend scientific resources. And there's a little bit of private engine building with your equipment in the lab and your lab assistant that allow you to get your scientific resources. And that's how the whole loop goes for the game.
Super cool. The player boards are awesome. So you've got this kind of gear on the actual boards, which is the way I think you keep track of your
funds.
Your funds, right? And you call them ideas. I guess ideas are funds in this game?
No, there are two different things.
Oh, it's two different things. Okay. So it's straight up cash then is what that gear is?
Yes.
Okay.
Cash, yes. Ideas is whatever the inventors bring to you when you hire them.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's super cool. And then this board is kind of got these hexagons, and then the hexagons can be either, I guess, inventor tiles, or they could also be inventions. Is that fair?
Exactly.
It's one part of the game. One part of the game is economical, and you have to use your resources in the best way possible to create the best outcome. And the other part of the game, the other challenge is about space. Where will you place everything you have? Where will you place your inventor? Where you will place your invention? So you can create stuff that will give you also points in the end of the game. So it's those two things that you'll have to master to become good at Age of Inventors.
And is asymmetrical.
Yes,
definitely.
All right.
Each laboratory is a different institution that has contributed to the progress of humanity during the Industrial Revolution. So you can have inventors working in a university, working in a corporation, working for the government, or people who are privately collaborating in a lab on their own.
Each player board is double-faced, so you can have for example, the good corporation or the evil one that steals ideas for everyone. And
that's awesome.
Every player board opens up new strategies and new possible ways to win for every player. It's
with a custom ability that is special to each side of the board.
Exactly.
And then who did the artwork is beautiful. So who did the artwork on like your box artwork and even your boards? Did you use the same artist, or sometimes I'll see people use a different one for the boxes than the board? Like who was your artist for this?
We used a couple. The inventors, and the invention was from a guy
Mike.
from Cyprus, Mike. Yeah, I can't remember his last name right now. Katoglu, yes. Thank you for Mike Katoglu. And Christos Avaras did all the work on the box and the board and stuff.
That's awesome. And how do you win the game? So I was reading somewhere that the game comes to an end if the board fills up, right? So if all those hex spots, fill up in the main board that everybody's playing on. What's another way to kind of trigger the end of this game?
4 rounds. If 4 rounds are played, the game finishes.
4 rounds, and then it's done. And this playtime is. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that filling every slot, takes a little bit of talent or luck or extreme strategy from everyone to actually do. It happens, but it's not that easy to happen.
So it's going to be 4 rounds essentially, which is going to trigger the end then essentially, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes, pretty much, yes.
And then the winning conditions is based on victory points. Is that kind of how you decide the winner?
Yep, exactly.
There are plenty of ways to get victory points. There are some tracks where you progress humanity in various fields like academic or industrial. And there is also how many of your inventors were retired and they offered, their knowledge to the scientific community. And there are also some experiments where you can try and steal some more points if you're lucky and if you have managed your resources well. But that's pretty much it. And everything is connected when you play.
You can think of it as a race where the track's progress is public victory points. Everybody can see how much you're scoring. but the victory points gained from retiring inventors or doing experiments is secret. So there is a kind of edge till the very last moment. And most of the games we played and play tested had very similar scores. So you don't really know until you finish the game who's going to win.
Which is good, because I know when I play games, it can be sometimes frustrating, and I'll throw Catan out there as a perfect example of this, where people know very early on whether they're cooked or not, right? And nothing is worse than knowing that you've already lost the game and you're pretty much at the beginning, and you got to sit there now for an hour and a half and just grind it out, which is some people like that, but it can be quite painful for some people. So
Yes.
Feeling like you have a chance, feeling like there's kind of a closeness when you get to the end. I think that's awesome, because then at least it feels like, that, right up until the end, it kind of comes down to the final moments as you go along. Vanton, so you've done obviously a few games. Were you able to be part of the campaigns that these other games did, or were you purely doing design for those other companies?
I was part of the campaign, yes, in all of them, actually, in all of them,
Nice.
until now. And it's a very stressful couple of weeks, but it's a thrill that it gets your heart going, and I love it. And every time it's finished, I'm like, ooh, finally it's finished. Now I can relax. But when it's gonna be the next one? I can't wait for the next time I'm gonna be on Kickstarter. People are mostly awesome on Kickstarter. They share their thoughts about the game. I always love it when I communicate with people and they're saying, "Oh, I thought of that about your game," or "I thought about this," and I'm always like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. We will try to incorporate it." It's a very fun process. It's stressful, but still very fun.
I always ask myself mid-campaign, why do I keep doing this to myself? And then I forget about it afterwards, because then you want to do another one. So yeah. Was there any best practices you were able to pull over from some of being part of these other campaigns and now doing your own campaign? Was there any learnings that you had kind of brought from your past experiences into this one?
For Kickstarter, unfortunately, I don't think I've never said that, okay, I'll do that, and that's going to be a good thing, and that's going to give me some positive reward, because every time, every experience feels different. The public is different when you change types of games. When you're throwing in a dungeon crawler, you have different people, completely different people. When you're having a worker placement or Eurogame, different people, they like different stuff, they communicate it differently. So still, it for me is a maze, it's a mystery. I have no idea how to make a good campaign, a good Kickstarter campaign. All I know is that a good game will be noticed, and a good game, if you talk with your clients, let's say, with your customers, will give you the feedback you need to do the best you can for that specific project that you're working on.
Well said. You've got Big Board Theory connected in with you guys, and we've had them on the podcast as well. And they're the ones that connected us for this particular episode. How did you guys meet Big Board Theory? I know they're based out of Greece as well, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, how did you guys connect? And then, how did what role do they play with the company, and kind of how's that relationship work?
I am part of Big Board Theory. I'm a part of it, and I know that Aeolus, the third designer of our group, or maybe the first designer of our group, met them in Essen. The last time Essen was active, and since they met, they always thought that they should work together to do some stuff, and that's how they met. I met the Vasilis and Ioanna, Ember and Cyber, who you had on your show. I met them on Magic the Gathering meeting on a totally separate way. And after we met and we became like friends or something, then we said, I have to work tomorrow. I have this thing with Big Word Theory. Oh yeah, you too, me too. And that's how we met.
Oh, that's cool. And can you see like this kind of expanding into like a broader approach to the market, like tying in the Big Board Theory with Meeple Pug, or do you see those as distinct entities, or how will that work going forward with other projects?
I don't know. Hopefully, we're gonna work forward together. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure Meeple Pug will is very happy with Big Bang Theory, and in their next game, they will prefer them. But I don't know anything else for the future.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things I'd say in terms of best practices carrying forward is clearly your page, right? Your Kickstarter page itself is very visual, lots of GIFs, which are moving very smoothly on my computer at least, which, to get something that's also sharp and moving with the size constraints that Kickstarter has. So congrats on that, because, clearly you've got some good talent behind creating these things. Kind of how you've laid it out with your reviewers, tabletop simulator, multiple languages. I think that's become a little formulaic, if I could say that, with campaigns. I'm starting to see more and more campaigns, the successful ones, at the very least, have some structure to the campaign page. There's main beats that they're, elements that they're hitting on those page. And then you're right. I think from there it gets into, okay, what kind of game is it? How do we build our audience? What kind of engagement do we have? When we actually even launched can sometimes impact it as well. What are some of the things you guys have done to build your community around Age of Inventors?
So the community is just getting created, but in terms of engagement in the campaign, there's at least one person at any time answering comments, and we invited everybody to a Discord server. We are engaging with them on different platforms, Board Game Geek, Kickstarter itself, and Tabletop Simulator. We're just trying to be active on social media in a constructive way, not just spamming. And as Martin said, there's a lot of conversation. Like, literally, it's very validating when people take an interest in your game to the point that they would suggest something or just give you an impression.
Yeah.
And we just like to have this conversation because it's something we took the time to create. People want to say something about it, we are all for it. And pretty much that's how it's been going so far.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as a game designer myself, I know anytime anybody wants to talk about something I've created, I am all ears and ready to chat, right? Like
exactly.
It's fun, and it brings you a lot of joy, right? To see people interacting with something that you've created. And that's a tough feeling to replicate in other areas. So I can kind of relate with that for sure. What's next? Like, do you guys have another game you're working on after this one, or what's kind of the next steps after Age of Inventors?
There's a lot going on. We'll see where the ball lands, but yeah, there's a lot going on.
We have I don't know what we should say and what we shouldn't say. There are some things that we are working on right now. Some you will see very soon, and I'm pretty sure that you are going to see us with Meeple Pug for something less family friendly.
Oh, really?
Okay. We're creating something less family friendly. That's pretty much all we can say.
And how do you approach that? Because what you said earlier is, someone who's interested in a Euro is maybe has zero interest in a party game, for instance, right? And
right,
when you're building your audience, it's not like you can carry that audience over to the next game, right? If the genres are different, right? So how are you guys kind of mapping that out to essentially create a new audience for a different genre?
Are we doing that? I don't know.
We don't. I think the real answer is we don't. We just hope that if the design is good, the people who love that kind of design will check it out, and then hopefully they'll stay.
Yeah, makes sense.
The only thing we can do is find some mechanics that people love or hate depending on what games they prefer. For example, take that mechanic is very popular to some and very unpopular, very stigmatized is this the correct word?
Oh yeah.
To some others. So for example, actually that's a maybe a good point to say about Age of Inventors. Age of Inventors has some take that element, There is a track, we call it the ingenuity track, and the higher you are there, the more in control you are of the industry. Let's say of the industry, of the inventions, of all this. And whenever you do take that action, it actually says that you can steal an idea from everyone who is below you in that track. So being high in this track means that you are safe. People will not steal from you because you are highest. Or maybe it means that you are going on the offensive and very fast other people will try to throw you down. That creates a big edge when you're playing. Every time somebody climbs up, you're like, oh my God, is he going to attack me? Should I protect myself? Should I go up? And the other guy says, no, I'm just being safe. And then all this situation is awesome because it creates a challenge and it's competitive, but it doesn't create that people are ganking on someone. You cannot gank on someone and just throw all your attacks to one person.
Yeah.
Which happens sometimes, and sometimes it's the product of I don't know, because you lost the last game or something and people feel bad about it. We just wanted to avoid it and create a more family-friendly way of stealing each other's resources or something.
Is Meeple Pug have like a Facebook page or like a group that, like you said, Discord? Is there like an actual group they can join as well to follow kind of the news on this, as well as maybe some stuff that's yet to come?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram as well.
Instagram.
And the same for Big War Theory. And we're gonna be there, and you're gonna hear every news we have. And also, if anybody's coming Essen in a couple of weeks, we'll also be there.
Oh, nice.
And I think we're gonna be showing some of the stuff that are coming up. Yeah, that's another way to catch up.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, for anybody that wants to check out this campaign, and I encourage you to do so, it looks super cool. I'm going to put a link in the show notes that people can click on to get to the Kickstarter page, or go to Kickstarter and just search for Age of Inventors, and you'll find it there. Meeple Pug is the company name. Gentlemen, I just want to wish you all the best on this campaign. It looks like it's doing really, really well so far, and you still got a lot of runway still to go, so it's going to be cool to see where this ends up.
Thank you so much, James.
No worries. All the best. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.